Hello viewers, I'm Lorry Hughes. I'm the CEO of Reward Minerals. We're a leading SOP potash company in Australia and listed on the ASX. And I'd love to take you through our latest presentation. Okay, so let's talk about Reward Minerals. As I mentioned, we are a leading potassium sulfate development company, or potash. Here's just some forward-looking disclaimers, which I'll skip over. Let's get down to the summary. Okay, so what we're about is we're about the development of our new potassium sulfate, processing technology. We call it the Reward process at the moment. And we are seeking to confirm potentially significant operating and capital costs compared to existing technology in the world. And our latest test work in the lab that we have here, managed and ticked off by independent engineering firms, we've shown great progress in showing that the process works very well. So as part of that, in growing our company, we have commenced a global engagement with third-party SOP potash. Importantly, our process technology is applicable to take waste material from solar salt operations that produce solar salt from seawater, also desalination plants. So we're engaging with all these strategic investment companies in the hope that we can form a development and production JV using the Reward process. So we want to also, as part of the studies coming up, is to include the Reward process in our new scoping studies for our own Pintle Lake Potash project in Western Australia. And finally, the last key value driver for us is we're expecting results soon from first pass exploration drilling completed by Fortescue Metals Group and our JV looking for copper and gold in Western Australia. So a quick look at our corporate structure. We're listed on the ASX under the ticker Reward RWD and RWDO for some listed options. We've recently done a rights issue, which was fully underwritten to raise 2.6 million. So we have 2.7 million in cash and about 3 million in debt to our major shareholder. Our major shareholder is Dr. Michael Rowayne, the inventor of the Reward process. And he's been involved with Reward and potash for many, many years, 17 years with the Reward, and over 40 years looking at potash in particular, and in solar salt operations. So Dr. Michael Rowayne is a lead technology expert for us, and complemented very well by the existing board, Colin McKavanagh, very experienced, Rod Della Vedova. He is very experienced, particularly with solar salt. So that's very useful for us as we go forward. There's myself, a fellow of the AusIMM. I've been around for over 28 years in the industry. I'm a geologist. I have been involved in potash prior to working with Reward. I had a very successful period with Danakali in Eritrea in Africa, and where we defined a major potash resource there. Also, Warren Hinchcliffe is another key part of our team. Him and Michael Rowayne were the inventors of our new technology. So we feel like we've got a great team going forward. As I mentioned, I'll just skip over this because I mentioned it already. The key inventors of the Reward process, Michael Rowayne and Warren Hinchcliffe. I've spent many years, Reward has spent 16 years itself working on these type of activities to come up with solutions. So we feel like we're very well placed to take our technology and our projects forward. Now, let's just spend a little bit of time just trying to explain to the viewers and then potential investors what our process does compared to existing technology. So if we look at the top here, where I've got a label 9 grams per litre SOP. So that is material that is could be pumped out of our own project or it could be reject brine from a solar salt operation. And we evaporate it further in the first step, simple evaporation ponds. We increase the concentration of the SOP up to 21 grams per litre, and further to 24 grams per litre in the second pond. And then this area where I have it in red highlight is the first key step where our technology differs. And what we do here is we bring the concentration right up of SOP. And then in terms of SOP production, one of the key elements is to remove a reject brine, which is predominantly magnesium chloride. And we simply decant this off at this evaporation stage. And then we redissolve our predominantly potash salts into a new brine, a redissolved brine, using essentially seawater or seawater quality brine. And that allows us to pump, simply pump, which is inexpensive, pump our strongly positive SOP brine, strongly enriched SOP brine to the next stage, which is the next red highlight. Now, what existing technology does would simply evaporate completely at this step and then require mechanical harvesting. So mechanical harvesting is quite involved. It's expensive. You have to purchase equipment. You have to maintain it. You have to operate it. So we'll completely avoid that step in removing the majority of our magnesium out of our system. Okay, now the second key step for our new technology is this, what we call the syngenite reactor step. And what we do there, we take our enriched brine full of SOP, we add gypsum. Gypsum is a readily available commodity. It's very cheap. It is calcium sulfate. And we mix it together simply with tanks and our brine. And it actually creates a new double salt called syngenite. Okay, so syngenite, the beauty about syngenite is a double salt that readily converts to our final product. So this is very exciting. It's very simple. And what this step here does is completely avoids the second bullet point up here, which is no flotation upgrade required. Now, flotation is a very involved, expensive, and an often tricky processing step to remove salt and impurities from your potash. So a number of other players in the industry, particularly in Western Australia in recent years, in the last 5 years, have had a lot of trouble with this. They've spent a lot of money, and it essentially has not been successful. And we completely avoid these two key steps here. And then as we continue along the process in area 200, we move through a simple belt filter system. We get to the syngenite leach step, and that's where we're removing the potassium sulfate away from the calcium sulfate. We're using a better quality water at this step. We've got here a little label bore water. This is relatively very simple, and that's the beauty of our flow sheet here. It is very much simplified and it very much works. So we're going through this process now we have an international patent or Australian patent application, which will soon become an international patent application that will be completed by August this year. And then so the whole point there is to try and protect our intellectual property. And then we can move forward and demonstrate how we can use this technology in any number of projects, including our own Cumpapintil Lake project in Western Australia. So we are expecting to show the market, we haven't done it yet, but because we have no mechanical harvesting, no flotation, we use conventional fixed plant components. We have a very simplified flow sheet. There should be material cost reductions in capital and operating costs for us going forward. So the next few slides are a little bit more information here. So the reader can, the viewer can go through this at their leisure. I don't want to labour these points because it becomes a little bit too complicated for investors at this stage. But as I mentioned, I've already talked about it. We have a much simpler process than the existing technology in the world. Recent results. Okay, so some of our recent results, we're working with international or global engineering firms to line up the next steps of our studies and have an experienced team working with us. We are working with them to prove our first order mass balance SysCAD models and flow sheets so they can be independently verified. That we've been doing confirmatory test work in the laboratories here in Western Australia, and we've had some great results with plus 50% first pass extraction of potassium to our solid double salt syngenite. It's a very exciting time for the company. We're expecting further test results to come through in the coming weeks that will further support our plans for a full-blown feasibility study after our current engineering scoping studies. So the next steps, as I mentioned, we've got a Australian provisional patent application lodged, and we need to submit further information that we are generating now into that application by August this year. That will happen. We are progressing our engineering study with the global engineering firm. That will be complete mid-year, where we can tell the market and where we'll be demonstrating the potential economic benefits for our own projects plus other projects. And we really believe the goal here is to establish that operations based on seawater bitterns can produce SOP at the lowest cost globally. So that's a big deal. It's a big deal going forward for a number of reasons. So here, this is a image of a existing solar salt operation. So what they do here, simply, it's a very hot climate, it's a very windy climate in Western Australia. This company, they bring in seawater, they evaporate it through a series of ponds, and they collect high quality salt for the chemical industry. Now, in this process, it's almost criminal that they throw away all the potash. They generate a lot of potash here, and it just simply gets discarded back into the ocean or into waste stockpiles. So this is where we believe our technology can transform the potash industry by making the recovery of SOP potash possible for the first time from these type of projects. And there are many of these type of projects around the world, particularly in hot climates. We have Western Australia as a world leader. You've got production in Africa. You've got production in Mexico. A lot of it is in the industry is also linked to offtake agreements and ownership with third-party users or downstream users, such as Japanese conglomerates using the salt in the PVC and chemical industry. So we think there's a huge opportunity to tack potash developments right next door to these type of salt developments in the world. And as part of that, we see a massive positive ESG contribution in front of us with the way that we plan to make potash here. So, just quickly going through them and how we can impact the ESG potential. We see ourselves as replacing Mainheim processing route for SOP. Mainheim is very expensive. Our processing should demonstrate it is actually very inexpensive. So we think this is a fantastic replacing more expensive production in the world. We're building new infrastructure. This is what we want to do. We want to build new infrastructure and sustainable industries. We are being innovative. We're reducing emissions from fertilizer production globally. There's a whole number of aspects here where we tick a lot of ESG boxes, and the most important for me is that we are taking another man's waste and turning it into gold. That's what we're doing, essentially. It's being discarded and we're using that. So we're reducing the footprint and to making more value and making a valuable product that the world wants right now. Let's have a look at SOP, sulfate of potash. The pricing right now is at all-time highs. And this is underpinned by the global transition to sophisticated farming methods around the world. This is where you need sophisticated fertilizers, very effective fertilizers such as sulfate of potash and others. It is the most scarce, high-value fertilizer in the world. It is low chloride, so it has particular use in low rainfall climates. Australia is one of those, and there's many others as we're going forward in the world. And it's particularly useful for higher value crops, such as fruit and vegetables. I don't want to dwell on this. Some of these factors are quite well known in the industry about the differences between the two key types of potash. As mentioned, we're targeting sulfate of potash, SOP. The biggest market in the potash space is what's called muriate of potash, or MOP, which is potassium chloride. There's a lot of key differences there. The sulfate of potash is the premium, most expensive, hardest to come by fertilizer. It has very low chloride. Chloride can affect the propensity of some plants to effectively fruit properly and be of high quality. There are a number of reasons there. I won't go through them in detail, but we feel like we're operating in a very good space targeting sulfate of potash, because that is the fertilizer that is in high demand around the world. Okay, quick look. I think we're running out a bit of a time. I don't want to go too far over time, but this is the Western Australian industry and the opportunities that we have. Western Australia is a very large salt export country. We have over 12 million tonne per annum currently, and there are a number of proposed salt projects that have either commenced construction or they're going through approvals and definition on the coast and in these areas. So we have Rio Tinto. They have 3 large operations which dominate the West Australian landscape. You have Japanese conglomerates, Mitsui, heavily involved in the WA industry for over 20 years. In yellow, I have the new salt developments, which are on the coast. And I'll include BCI here is in green. That's also a salt, but they are proposing to use to produce SOP, as is Fin up here. Reward is over here. We've got a very large lake brine project, which will benefit from our new potash processing technology. In fact, all these companies on this map can benefit from the reward process, we believe, because all of them that are involved in potash are proposing to use old technology, which we believe there are major issues with that technology in operating in Western Australia. And we've seen other companies, particularly SO4 and KLL, that have recently built plants. They are really struggling to meet any sort of nameplate capacity. In fact, one of the companies has gone into administration after blowing up hundreds of millions of dollars of investor and loan funds. So we believe that there's a huge opportunity for Reward to become involved with a number of these companies as we go forward. So this will be part of our strategy. The next steps. So as I mentioned, we're all about the technology and ensuring our protection of our IP and proving that it works and showing the industry that it works. As part of that, we've got worldwide engagement going on with these companies that want to be involved in SOP, fertilizer production. So there are a number of them all around the world. We are trying to engage with as many of those companies as it makes sense to do, given our size and current workloads. We'll keep pushing on that. And for the first time, we're really targeting solar salt companies rather than SOP brine companies, because that's an opportunity. A lot of these solar salt companies have already got existing infrastructure in place. They are located right on the coast. So if we're talking about export and being able to access markets, being right on the coast is a key advantage. So that's one of the reasons why we're very interested in doing a deal with a solar salt company. And keep an eye out for the completion of our engineering scoping study. And this will be for the first time where we're going to wrap some economic numbers around what our technology can do. So that's a very important milestone for us coming up mid-year. And we'll look to continue to seek a JV partner for our very large KP potash project in Western Australia as time goes by. So I've got a few appendices about our projects in the rest of the presentation. You can have a look at those at your leisure. I'm happy to take questions via email, or we can have calls. But thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.